What is up, my fellow sports fans? I am pumped. I should have made this episode yesterday when I was just like, whoa. I was at a nice restaurant watching the game with a lady, and she's all not caring about the game. And there's some Viking fans to the right of us, all sad. There's all these emotions. There's nonchalant, sad, and he's like, let's go. When there was that stupid Dexter Lawrence killed it all game. When there was that stupid roughing the passer penalty on Dexter Lawrence, it's like, are you kidding me? Because it looked bad. No, it wasn't that. No, I was mad about that. No. So that looked bad in real time. I saw that. I was mad. Whatever. What it was when there was the KJ Osborne touchdown, I was like, okay, we're still in this. Whatever. Like, I'm over it. And then they show the replay. I'd actually just been explaining what holding was to my girlfriend. And they show the replay of Kayvon being not only held, but like thrown to the ground. Unless you're Quentin Nelson, you can't, to throw someone on the ground, you have to grab them. You can't just like use your hands and use the force to flip them over. Like, you're allowed to do a tiny bit and kind of manhandle them. But unless you're Quentin Nelson and it's someone smaller, you can't really manhandle someone that easily. So when someone like Kayvon Thibodeau just gets flipped to the ground like that, it's holding. And he not only was thrown to the ground, he had the position and was going to disrupt the play. And the only reason the play was able to happen was because of holding. Such an easy call to make as a referee. You see Thibodeau break through, about to make a play, and all of a sudden he's on the ground. It's like, that's holding. So when they show the replay, I was like, what the? Anyways, the game was so exciting. As I said in the podcast, I had Daniel Jones above Brady, above Cousins. You saw he's better than Cousins in crunch time games. Those legs are fire. And I had him up there with Dak and Herbert. And I'm still living in a bubble. I heard that Herbert blew the 28-0 game in classic Charger form. That's probably, again, I haven't seen it, but I'm guessing it's more due to them running the ball and running the clock out just like the Falcons did. So I'm sure he could have made some more plays. But I was actually having a debate with my friend Ben today. What would have happened if Herbert had been on the Giants and Daniel Jones had been on the Chargers? And for all the people saying, Daniel Jones is better than Herbert, had the better QBR, Herbert threw for 4,700 yards this year in an off year with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen missing lots of time. So the dude still slings it. He can make all the throws. He is a more dynamic player than Daniel Jones. And what's funny is if Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen are missing time, how come Herbert's rushing yards went from 302 down to 174 yards this year? If you have less weapons, you should be running like Daniel Jones did. Daniel Jones ran for 700 yards this year. It's because the Chargers, just like the Angels did with Mike Trout, are protecting their prized possession of Herbert, so they're not allowing him to be dynamic. It doesn't mean he's not more dynamic than Jones. There's a reason Herbert was supposed to be the first overall pick out of Oregon. They did both go 6 overall in the first round, but Herbert and Tua were thought by many to go first overall, and then they both slid because of various reasons. They're like, oh, Herbert's a product of Oregon, but he showed dynamic tools in Oregon. When he was at 6, like, ooh, that's a steal. Whereas Jones at 6, like, man, that was a reach. So even though they both went 6, there's a reason that Herbert is seen as the tools of your prospect. Jones is 6'5", Herbert 6'6" and an eighth. So he's over an inch taller. Actually, Jones is 6'5" and an eighth. He's exactly an inch taller, has a stronger arm, maybe not quite as fast as Jones or as physically tough, lowering those shoulders, but he's also a big dude. He's 6'6", 230, 240 versus 6'5", 230. They're similar sizes. Herbert's probably a little bigger, if anything. And he's got the laser arm. He can make all the throws. So, again, with Mike Williams, he can fire up those perfect deep balls. Jones has not shown he can throw perfect deep balls. As many drops as Darius Slayton has, which, oh my God, he had a classic Darius Slayton drop. It's like 3rd and 15, up and slant, and he's right there and just thinking about running after the catch and drops the ball. Got to catch the ball first. Anyways, as I was saying with, so they what they did with Mike Trout on the Angels is he can steal bases, but they don't want him to get hurt, so they stopped letting him steal. They stopped letting Herbert run. They didn't view Jones as a guy. They're testing him. So they said, what can you do? What can you do? They let him show it off all the way. Anyway, showing it off all the way, making those deep throws. As many times as Slayton dropped the ball, there are just as many when Jones overthrew him, especially in the first few years. So he does not have that deep ball on as point. So I was generous to give him that. It is possible at this point, of course, Monday morning quarterback or Monday afternoon as it is now, that Jones is better in pressure than Herbert. But again, he was allowed to ball out all year, do whatever you can to win. Justin Herbert wasn't given that. He's supposed to check down to Eckler, not run. Up 28-0. They're not saying throw it deep. So it is a different situation. It is tough to compare apples and oranges. Just as when I was putting Lamar below these guys, obviously if Lamar is on the Chiefs and has Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, I've got him in that next tier with Burrow and Jalen Hurts. So, and maybe even up there with Mahomes and Allen. Probably not because I'm a Lamar hater. But of course, your supporting cast matters. So, and what the coaching staff let you do. They let Lamar run. They let Hurts run. They let Daniel Jones run. They let Josh Allen run a fair amount, almost as much as Daniel Jones, and they don't really let Herbert run at all. So that's not fair to him. So I'm so pumped for my Giants. I've been talking trash to some of my Eagles fans. I think I'm going to be doing a podcast actually with my friend Tristan, who's an Eagles fan, so we can see what people think about how the game's going to go. I'm really excited. Week 18, we benched a lot of our players and went toe-to-toe with them. Our offense looked awful, but that's because Davis Webb was at the helm. He's not an NFL quarterback. We all saw that. And our defense held their own. So apparently I didn't realize that Lane Johnson missed last game, but he's actually still banged up. And even an NFL backup might be better than a banged-up not Lane Johnson, but in general, if you're playing below 100%, you might not be your best. And here's a perfect example for that. Dak Prescott led the league in interceptions this year with 15. Now, a lot of interceptions can be fluky. People say Josh Allen threw a pick. If you look at the stats yesterday, his stats weren't perfect. The pick was off a deflection. Daniel Jones missed a throw yesterday to Richie James, or it looked like he did. James was wide open. Similar play to Slayton. Up, slant, over right there for the first down, and the ball goes behind him. I'm like, what are you doing, Daniel? They show the replay. It was tipped by a defensive lineman. So it's the same thing with Allen's pick. I'm sure it's the same thing with some of Dak's picks. And when Jameis Winston threw those 30 interception season, they actually found out it could have been like 42 because there were some dropped interceptions. So whenever, I think there needs to be a stat of real interceptions, like how many times did the quarterback just throw the ball to the wrong team? Because if you throw the ball up to Mike Evans and he's up against a smaller corner, even if it's a jump ball, Evans is supposed to go up and get that guy. So for some reason, Evans forgets he's Mike Evans and doesn't jump and just puts his hands up. And a smaller, anyways, his teammate, but a 5'9" guy like Antoine Winfield goes up and takes it out of his hands. That's not the quarterback's fault. That's the receiver's fault. So sometimes it's not their fault. Anyways, they were just analyzing that Dak Prescott threw 15 interceptions this year, and RG3 was like, yeah, it actually kind of was Dak's fault. Dak said he's ready to come back. He was mentally ready. He said he was physically ready. But when you throw, your thumb is really putting a lot of that guidance. And if you have a broken thumb and it's not there yet, you don't have that zip on the ball. So he makes the read. He thinks he can make the throw. He makes it, and it's not quite there. So it's possible if 15 interceptions are a thing of the past. Matt Stafford threw 17 picks and took him to the Super Bowl last year. So it's totally possible that Dak's going to come out firing today. They've got Pollard, Zeke. They could totally steamroll the Bucs. That being said, I did not realize he threw 15 picks, which is more than anyone this year, and missed 5 games. So that is a really daunting stat. It is possible the Cowboys could, just like the Chargers, pull a classic Cowboys and one and done. So I'm excited. This game is going to be great for me. I do not care what happens. If the Cowboys lose, I'm like, Giants win, Cowboys lose. If the Cowboys win, well, guess what? They're still not going to win the Super Bowl. They're a good team. They've got Micah Parsons. They've got DeMarcus Lawrence. Really fun stat on them. The fake D-Law, by the way. Dexter Lawrence is the real D-Law. Micah Parsons, number 1 pass rush win percentage this year. Dexter Lawrence, number 1. No, Dexter Lawrence is my Dexter Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence, number 1 run stop win percentage this year. So you got to run away from both those dudes. I was actually thinking about doing a podcast with my friend Ben. Didn't even tell him about this. He's watching to find out now about breaking down each division, how each team looks in the future. So you say the NFC West, you got the Niners looking like the top dog, and not just next year, like how their team looks for the future, what they would need to do. So the Seahawks have a great regime with Pete Carroll. They got all those picks in the Broncos. You'd have to put them at number 2 because they have lots of wiggle room to do whatever they want. Whether Geno's their guy, they could also trade Geno and some picks, move up to the first overall pick, and then you'd have to slate the Cardinals and Rams at a tie. I know ties are whack, but they just are. The Cardinals have their franchise QB guy. Even though he's hurt, he's still their guy. They've signed him up. He's electric. They have D-Hop. They have Hollywood Brown. They do have some playmakers on defense. Budda Baker's really good. Isaiah Simmons is really good. And then edge is kind of the easiest to find. You just get those athletic dudes. So it's good that they have the actual ball hawking playmakers, but then they got to get a new coach. Whereas the Rams, if they keep McVay, which they could not, have the coach in play, have a team in play, they just need a healthy quarterback and a healthy offensive line. They lost OG left tackle Andrew Whitworth. Their whole team crumbled. Allen Robinson sucked. But if Allen Robinson comes back next year, they got Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, draft some other rookie, or Tutu Atwell's actually look decent at times. If A-Rob is fully healthy, Kupp is fully healthy, Tutu Atwell is a solid slot receiver, especially because those two demand a lot of attention. Allen Robinson may not have put up big numbers, but I'm sure they're still giving him some coverage. They all look like big dudes and stuff or regular size. If you see him without a shirt on, that dude's an animal. He's 6'3", 220. He's like Des Bryant, like absolute beast out there. So that's the kind of guy you have to pay attention to. So running back's easy to fill. They have Kyron Williams. They could get another one in the draft. So the problem with the Rams is they mortgaged all their picks to get Stafford, to get Von Miller, who they didn't even re-sign. So the reason they would have to be the bottom is that they don't have anything left. Anyways, I'm so pumped about, I'm supposed to be talking about the Giants. I'm on this epic rant. I don't even know what I was about to say with this. Oh, the Cowboys. So yeah, if the Cowboys lose, then they get a worse pick. So it's like, I'm so happy either way. Oh, so I was thinking to myself, what does it take to make an NFL like contender? What do you need to have? And I went through it in my head, and you need to pretty much just be above average at a bunch of positions, because you can win without an elite quarterback. Matt Stafford may have been an elite quarterback back in the day, probably wasn't an elite quarterback last year. As I said, he threw 17 interceptions. When the Giants won those 2 Super Bowls, that was pass rush and Eli Manning, who's an above average quarterback. So if I had to break it down, what you would want is an above average quarterback. An above average center is a very underrated position. You need to communicate with the quarterback. So above average center and quarterback, and then either one tackle or guard. So it's nice to have the running game. If it's a left tackle, center and left tackle, if it's a right guard, center and right guard. So an above average center and then one other lineman, and then above average tight end. Because as you saw with TJ Hawkinson, he was ripping up the Giants all game long. So having that tight end, the chess piece like George Kittle, you can put him in the backfield as a fullback in the running game. You could block with him. So to me, if I'm having an NFL team, one of the first people I'm signing up is a defensive back, like a safety or cornerback, one offensive lineman, a quarterback, and that tight end. That tight end is what you need. And then, of course, one alpha wide receiver. Just got in a debate on Twitter, the Giants need to keep building their defense. No, their number one need is an alpha wide receiver. Absolutely. Hodgins is playing great. He's established himself as a solid number 2. Wandale had a 100-yard game when he tore his ACL. He's a great slot receiver, dynamic player, can do jet sweeps and stuff. We need that alpha dog receiver. That's the one thing we need. So you need above average quarterback, above average tight end, 2 above average linemen, one of them being a center. So QB, 2 linemen, tight end, and then the alpha dog receiver. So of all those people, none of them really need to be elite. And as fun as it is to have the elite receiver, NFL teams that have won Super Bowls oftentimes don't. The Chiefs had Tyreek, ship him off. Mahomes sets the passing yards record. So you really just need above average people, someone with that alpha dog role. And they even showed they didn't have that. But again, they have Travis Kelce. So he's the guy in that alpha dog role, and kind of shows my point about having a valuable tight end. But I still believe you do want to have someone. The Chiefs are also not fair to compare to, because they have an elite tight end and an elite quarterback. If you're using above average players, like the Giants is a perfect example. They got Jones above average. They've got Andrew Thomas as an elite left tackle. Saquon Barkley is an elite running back. The offense is decent. They're missing that really good receiver. So you do want that one guy to scare people, draw double coverage so other people can't get double covered. And then the defensive side, you do want to have one nose tackle like my boy Dexter Lawrence, just messing stuff up. If you try and do a 4th and short, you got that big guy in the middle, messes things up. And then you do want to have 2 edge rushers. As the Vikings show, they have Daniel Hunter, who's elite, but we have Andrew Thomas, stuffed him on 25 pass attempts. He didn't allow a single pressure him the whole game. So then they put him on the rookie, Evan Neal. He got 7 pressures on Evan Neal. So if you have 2 dynamic pass rushers, you could have one getting stuffed by Thomas and one. There's always a weaker side. So it's important to have an above average nose and then 2 above average edges. And then, as I said, you want an alpha receiver. So to stop that, you got to have one number 1 corner. not like an elite like a Sauce Gardner, just someone like a Dory Jackson who's good enough to hang with a Justin Jefferson with some safety help. And then, of course, you want to have a safety who can tell everyone what to do. Doesn't have to be elite like a Harrison Smith, but using the Giants as an example, someone like Xavier McKinney who can get the job done. He played every snap for like a year and a half. You just want that safety who can know where to be, move people around. And then, of course, an in-space middle linebacker who knows what to do. Same thing as safety would be nice as well. But of all these positions I've named, that is the least important because you can use a safety to do the role of the middle linebacker. You can just have a standard like old school 6'1", 240 run stopping middle linebacker for running situations. And really linebackers are outdated. If they're in a for sure passing situation, you can do what they do to the Ravens and put 8 DBs out there and just have a bunch of safeties. You can really have a safety at every position and then play zone. And then if they try and throw, you got athletic safeties out there. You do a QB sneak, you got safeties coming in to slam you. So I love safeties. I used to play safeties at every position in Madden. If you could put, I'd put linebackers at D end, I put D ends at DT. It's all about speed. So I do love having those safeties. So again, to run it back, you want an above average quarterback, center, a guard or tackle, a tight end, alpha dog receiver, the number one corner to guard that receiver, a safety to tell everyone where to be, a DT, and 2 edge rushers. And of course, since there's 11 men on the field, if you have that 11th guy, it would be nice to have an off-ball linebacker, but that's not needed. And again, if you compare that to the Lions and Giants, that's pretty much what the Lions and Giants do. Except for the alpha dog receiver on the Giants, they have pretty much all those pieces. And the Lions have that great offensive line. Goff is a definition of an average to above average quarterback. They don't have dynamic players on their team except for DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown. The average NFL fan can't even name a player on their defense, but they go out and compete. So if you have all decent players on your team and then a few blue chip stars, you don't really need to have the Patrick Mahomes and the Travis Kelce's to win championships. You just need to have the right pieces in the right places. And I'm really excited. So that's why I'm so excited about this game. But the Giants, I'm excited about us going up against the Eagles and showing that we can compete. And I'm excited about this game because I can just watch the Bucs and Cowboys do whatever. It's always fun to watch Brady lose. But, as I become more spiritual and realize, as I said yesterday, I don't hate Tom Brady for being better than Peyton Manning and being better than the Giants. He's from Cali. I respect the guy. He's going through divorce. I want the best for him. He's on my fantasy team. It's the main reason I like him. So I love Mike Evans too. He's been they always talk about like AJ Green, Dez Bryant. They've talked about those guys for years. Somehow Mike Evans gets 1,000 yards every year and no one talks about him. So it'd be nice for him to keep going, keep building his resume. But whoever loses, it'll be fun. I know Brady will come back with lots of fire for my fantasy team next year if they lose. And then, if the Giants get to play Brady again, that'd be amazing. If we beat Brady again, like, oh my God, that would be the best. So I guess I kind of do. No, I technically want the Cowboys to win. It's more important for me that the Cowboys win and get a worse draft pick. So I guess go Cowboys. I should never end. I should never say that. That sounds awful. I got to stop.